Saturday morning, 1978. You are stood at the counter of the corner shop with coins in your hand and a list in your mum's handwriting. A loaf of bread, a pint of milk, and 10 Embassy Regal. You are counting the exact money because there is no room for getting it wrong. There are 20 things in this video that every working class kid just knew. Things the middle class never understood and never had to. One of them is going to make you properly angry, and it is not the one you think. Now, before we dive in, tap that subscribe button. You will not want to miss what is coming next. 20. Sugar sandwiches. 2 slices of Mother's Pride white bread, a scrape of stalk margarine, a handful of granulated sugar straight from the Tate & Lyle bag. That was tea on a Thursday when the cupboard was bare, and payday was Friday. The crunch of the granules between your teeth. The bread going slightly translucent where the margarine soaked through. This was not a treat. This was what you ate when there was nothing else in the house. Every working class kid knows this. Mention it to someone who grew up with a detached garage and a Habitat catalogue, and they assume you are joking. You are not joking. Nobody sells sugar sandwiches. Nobody had to. They existed because the alternative was nothing. When the money came in, the sandwich disappeared. Not because anyone stopped needing it, but because nobody wanted to admit they ever had. But if the sugar sandwich was the taste of making do, this next one was the sound of it. 19. The prepayment meter. The grey metal box mounted on the wall in the hallway or under the stairs. 50p pieces. The slot, the click, the little window showing how much credit was left, and the specific dread of a Sunday evening when the lights flickered and you had no change. The emergency 50p kept in a jam jar on the mantelpiece, the clunk of the mechanism, the television coming back on, the relief. Middle-class houses had quarterly bills paid by cheque. Working-class houses had a slot in the wall and a prayer. You watched your mum feed the meter in the dark hallway. You learned what electricity cost before you could read properly. Smart meters replaced them. Nobody walks to the meter in the dark anymore. And nobody's children learn what a unit costs because the lesson has been automated out of existence. This next one smelled of cherryade and came on wheels. 18. The Corona Pop Man. Thomas and Evans Limited started bottling soft drinks in Porth, South Wales. By the 1960s, the Corona lorry was a fixture on every working-class street in Britain. Lemonade, orangeade, dandelion and burdock. American cream soda, which was green for reasons nobody ever explained. Glass bottles with ridged necks, wire crates on the doorstep, and the deposit. 3p back on every empty returned. Kids went round the neighbours on a Saturday morning collecting empties. That money was yours. Gathering Corona bottles was the first job half of working-class Britain ever had. The driver knew which houses took what. He knew your mum by name. Britvic took the company over, and the Corona brand vanished in the early 1990s. 3p on a glass bottle taught more about economics than any classroom ever did. 17. Free school dinners. The dinner ticket. A different colour from the paying children's tickets. Sometimes a different queue entirely. The moment you handed it over at the till, the dinner lady glanced, and you hoped nobody behind you was watching. The metal trays. Pink custard. Sponge with chocolate sauce. The smell of boiled cabbage in the corridor every single day without fail. You knew who else was on free dinners by where they stood. Nobody said it. Everybody knew. Middle-class kids brought packed lunches in Tupperware boxes. You handed over a coloured ticket and understood what class meant for the first time. You were 7 years old. Universal infant free school meals exist now in some year groups. The shame has been partly taken apart, but for a generation, the dinner ticket was a class marker printed on card. Every child who carried one understood its weight long before anyone taught them the word stigma. Here is something nobody explained at the time. The prepayment meter cost more per unit than a quarterly bill. The Provident charged 5 times what a bank would. The corner shop charged more per item than the supermarket 3 bus rides away. Being working class was expensive. The less money you had, the more everything cost. Today they call it the poverty premium. The experience came decades before the phrase 16, bread and dripping, the dripping bowl on the pantry shelf. Ceramic or Pyrex, never washed properly, topped up after every Sunday roast. White beef fat on top, brown jelly underneath, white toast, spread thick, salt on top. The taste was deep and savoury, better than butter if you grew up with it. Your nan kept that bowl going for years. Recycled fat before anyone thought to call it sustainable. Supermarkets now sell beef dripping in neat plastic tubs for £3.50. Heritage cooking, they call it. Your nan made it for free from Sunday leftovers. 15. The outside lav. The backyard toilet. A cold concrete seat in January. Torn newspaper on a nail. Actual pages of the Daily Mirror cut into squares. A spider in every corner. The torch, or the candle if the bulb had gone. The wooden door with the latch that never quite shut. J is fluid in summer, damp brick in winter. You did not linger. In winter, you held it as long as humanly possible. Your dad said it never did them any harm. It did, in every measurable sense. Indoor bathrooms arrived with council house improvements through the 60s and 70s. The outside lav became a coal store, then a junk shed, then got bricked up. Some still survive behind terrace rows in Burnley, Oldham, and the Welsh valleys. Locked, forgotten, full of spiders and old newspapers nobody will ever read again. 14. Being on tick. Your mum sent you to the shop with a list and told you to put it on the book. The shopkeeper wrote it down in pencil in a notebook kept under the counter. A loaf, a pint of milk, 10 Embassy Regal, half a pound of corned beef, sliced, settled on Friday when the wage packet came home. The shopkeeper knew every family's payday to the day. A credit system built on trust between people who lived on the same street. No interest, no paperwork, no credit check, just a pencil and a handshake. Middle-class families had accounts at John Lewis. Working-class families had Mr. Patel's notebook. The corner shops closed when the supermarkets came. The tick book closed with them, replaced by credit cards at 29.9%, and buy, now pay later schemes on a phone. The shopkeeper who knew your name has been replaced by a machine that asks if you brought your own bag. 13. The Provident check. The tally woman. She carried a ledger. You borrowed £50 and paid back 70 over 20 weeks. The cheque was pink or green and could only be spent in certain shops. She came at the same time, the same day, every week. Your mum had the money ready in an envelope by the front door. Every working-class street had a Provy agent. She knew who was behind, who had just had a baby, who had been laid off. The middle class had overdraft facilities at the Midland Bank. The working class had a woman with a ledger at the door. Provident Financial was founded in Bradford in 1880. Doorstep lending stopped on the 31st of December 2021. The company rebranded as Vanquis Banking Group. The woman at the door has been replaced by an app. The annual percentage rate was always brutal, but she knew your name. Every one of these was a system. The meter, the tick book, the catalogue, the Corona bottle deposit. Every one was a microeconomy built on exact change and trust. The middle class had standing orders and savings accounts. The working class had a jar on the mantelpiece and a woman who knocked on Thursdays. Nobody designed these systems. They grew out of necessity, and they worked until something bigger came along and replaced them with nothing. 12. Hand-me-downs. Your older brother's school trousers from 2 years ago. Your cousin's anorak, knees already thin, elastic already gone. Your sister's plimsolls with the name crossed out in biro and yours written underneath. Clark's shoes resold at the cobbler's twice. Bin bags arriving from Auntie Jean every September. Oldest got new. Youngest got what was left. Whole networks of clothing moved between families on the same estate. Middle-class children got new uniforms from the department store in August. Working-class children got a bin bag and were told to be grateful. Vintage and thrifting are fashionable now. £20 t-shirts in charity shops marketed as sustainable living. Your mum called it making do. She did not need a marketing campaign. 11. Chip shop tea. Not as a treat, as dinner. Chips wrapped in newspaper, then white paper, then polystyrene trays. The vinegar soaking through. Scraps piled on top for free, or bits depending on your region. A battered sausage or a fish cake. Never cod. Cod was dear. Mushy peas from the metal tub. Curry sauce if you were up north. The walk home, eating from the paper and burning your fingers in the cold. Friday. Chippy tea was sacred. Sent with a £5 note, you came back with enough for 4. Eaten on laps in front of the telly. Not at the table. A fish supper now costs between £8 and £12. The independent chippies are vanishing. Rates, energy bills, the price of cooking oil. What replaced them charges twice as much and wraps everything in cardboard. 10. Sharing a bed. Top and tail. 2 in a bed. 3 if the house was small enough. Your brother's feet next to your face. The cold wall side nobody wanted. The argument about who had more blankets. The eiderdown that weighed more than a small child. The nylon sheet that crackled with static every time you moved. It was not discussed. It simply was. Middle-class children had their own rooms with matching curtains and a bookcase. Working-class children had a brother's elbow in their ribs and a blanket negotiation every night. The houses were small because they were built for workers. 2 up, 2 down. Nobody at the time called it overcrowding. They called it Tuesday. 9. The coal fire and the coal man. The sound of coal tipped from the Hessian sack into the backyard bunker. The coal man with his leather backpiece, his face black with dust. The fire took 20 minutes to light, with newspaper twists, kindling, and a firelighter. The poker. Banking it up with slack at night, so it smouldered until morning. The fire guard placed in front. Roasting at the front, freezing at the back. Toast cooked on a fork held to the flames. Your job was fetching the coal scuttle from the bunker, in the dark, in the rain. Working-class council houses kept coal fires well into the 1980s. You knew winter by the weight of the scuttle. Smokeless zones and the Clean Air Acts changed the skyline. Gas fires were bolted over boarded-up hearths. Central heating arrived last on council estates, as it always did. The coal man stopped his rounds. The fire that warmed one side of you and froze the other has been replaced by a radiator. It heats the room evenly. It has absolutely no soul. 8. The rag and bone man. The horse and cart. The shout. A long, incomprehensible yell that somehow every child on the street understood. The cart piled with scrap metal, old clothes, and broken furniture. He gave you a donkey stone for your front step. Or a goldfish in a plastic bag. Or a balloon. All in exchange for a bag of old clothes and a few bits of metal. Children chased the cart down the road. Your mum had a bag ready by the front door. The donkey stone coloured your doorstep cream or white. A scrubbed step said something. It said this house is looked after, even if there is not much in it. The last rag and bone men disappeared in the 80s. Transit vans full of scrap replaced them. No horse, no donkey stone, no goldfish. The recycling centre at the retail park does the same job with less theatre and no livestock. Nobody chose an outside toilet over a bathroom. Nobody preferred dripping to butter. Nobody wanted 3 children in a bed. But there was something in the texture of that life. The coal fire on your face. The chippy walk home on a Friday. The Corona lorry turning onto your street. The replacements never quite matched it. Central heating is better than coal. That is not the point. The point is that a generation was told their whole way of living was inferior, and then the things that replaced it turned out to be beige. 7. Sitting outside the pub, a packet of Smith's crisps with the blue twist of salt inside, a glass bottle of R. White's lemonade with a straw, the car park, and wait. The muffled sound of the jukebox through the wall, cigarette smoke drifting out every time someone opened the door. Hours. Literal hours. If it was summer, you played with the other children whose parents were also inside. If it was winter, you sat in the car with the window wound down half an inch. This was not neglect. This was Saturday night. Middle-class families went to restaurants. Working-class families went to the local, and the kids got the car park and a bag of crisps. Family-friendly pubs arrived with soft play areas and children's menus. The car park childhood ended. Whether that was progress depends on whether you were the parent inside or the child outside. Most of us were the child. 6. The tin bath. Zinc. Hung on a nail on the back wall all week. Brought inside on Sunday evening, placed in front of the coal fire, filled with kettles and pans of hot water, a bar of Lifebuoy soap, the towel warming on the fire guard, youngest in first, oldest in last. The water was grey by the 3rd child. Some working-class terraces in the Welsh valleys and the northeast were still using the tin bath into the mid-1970s. Indoor plumbing came with council improvements. The bath went on the nail and stayed there. Then it went to the shed, then to the tip, then to an antiques shop in the Cotswolds, where it now holds decorative logs and costs £150. 5. The Littlewoods catalogue. Or Grattan. Or Freeman's. Or Kay's. Thicker than the Bible and studied more closely. The weight of it landing on the doormat in July. Dog-eared pages. Items circled in biro. The autumn-winter edition was the most exciting publication of the year. This was how working-class families bought school uniforms, winter coats, and Christmas presents. 20 weeks at 50 pence a week for a pair of shoes. Your mum was the agent. She collected the weekly payments from neighbours and took a small commission. She knew who was behind. She never chased hard because she had been behind herself. Littlewoods rebranded to Very in 2009. Grattan closed. The Argos catalogue stopped printing in 2020. The weight of the book in your hands, the ritual of circling, the Saturday afternoon on the carpet with your brothers and sisters deciding what to ask for at Christmas. All replaced by a screen and next day delivery. Faster, yes. But nobody ever sat on the floor with a laptop, circling dreams. 4. Condensed milk from the tin. Nestle. 2 triangular holes were punched in the top with the point of a kitchen knife. Thick, sweet, impossibly slow pouring. On bread, as a sandwich. Straight from the tin on a spoon when nobody was looking. Drizzled over tinned peaches or fruit cocktail. In tea, when the fresh milk had run out. The tin sat on the pantry shelf with a saucer over the top to keep the flies off. This was not a recipe ingredient. This was a working-class staple. Cheap, sweet, and it lasted for ages. Children ate it like dessert, because in that house it was dessert. Middle-class kitchens used it for banoffee pie. Working-class kitchens used it for everything else. Still on the shelves. Still cheap. Nobody eats it on bread anymore. But if you recognize the tin with 2 holes in the top, you know exactly which shelf it sat on. The title of this video is not really about objects. It is about knowledge. Working class kids knew things. They knew the money ran out before the week did. They knew the sound of the meter running down. They knew which neighbours would help and which would not. They knew the price of a pint of milk, a bag of coal, and a unit of electricity before they could do long division. Middle-class kids learned these things later, in textbooks, or never. Working-class kids were born into the curriculum. 3. Playing out till the streetlights came on. The street, the ginnel, the back entry, the waste ground. No phone, no plan, no adult in sight. Kirby, British Bulldog, knockdown ginger. Dens built from pallets and doors dragged off skips. And then the streetlight flickered on. That specific orange glow of the sodium lamp. That was the only clock that mattered. Every estate ran on this rule. The streets were the playground because there was no garden. Mrs. Henderson 3 doors down would clip you round the ear if you kicked a ball at her fence, and your mum would thank her for it. Those sodium lamps have been swapped for white LED lights, brighter, colder, more efficient. The orange glow that meant time to go home is gone. The replacements illuminate streets where no children play. 2. The front room. The parlour. The best room. The door that was always shut. 3-piece suite in dark drallen, still wrapped in plastic covers. Ornaments on the mantelpiece. A china lady. A horse and cart. A glass swan. A display cabinet with glasses nobody had ever drunk from. A different, better carpet than anywhere else in the house. The room smelled of furniture polish and nothing else. This room was for visitors. The doctor, the priest, the man collecting the penny policy. Not for children. Your mum cleaned it every Saturday and nobody sat in it from 1 month to the next. The family lived in the back room, the kitchen, and the yard. The front room was aspiration preserved behind a closed door. Open plan living finished it off. The idea of keeping an entire room empty for visitors who came twice a year seems mad now. But it made perfect sense to a woman who had nothing else to show the world except a clean front room and a door she could close on it. The front room was kept for a day that never came. This last one was kept for a day that always did. 1. The Christmas Hamper Club. Park hampers. The Co-op Christmas Club. The Saving Stamp Book. Starting in January. 50 pence a week, every week, all year, without fail. The agent collected it on the doorstep, or you paid at the post office. By November, you had enough. At its peak, Park Foods packed 1 million Christmas hampers a year for families who had saved a few pounds a week for 11 months straight. The hamper arrived in a cardboard box in late November. Tinned ham, tinned salmon, a box of crackers, a small bottle of sherry, a Christmas pudding in a basin, a packet of dates, a tin of Quality Street. Everything tinned, everything wrapped, everything precious. There was no savings account, no credit card to fall back on, just a woman with a book and 50 weeks of 50 pence. When the box arrived, your mum checked every item against the list. Nothing was opened before Christmas Day. The tins were stored on top of the wardrobe where the children could not reach. You could look at the box. You could not touch it. By 2004, Park packed just 75,000 hampers. The supermarkets had won. Nobody saves 50 pence a week for 11 months anymore. But for a generation of working-class families, that cardboard box on the doorstep was the moment Christmas became real. Not the tree, not the lights on the high street, the box. And inside it, every single tin was a promise that had been kept. Subscribe to Albert's Old Britain and watch the next video to keep these stories alive.